In the rainy, windswept meadows of the Celestial Riverlands, the Chaos Dwarfs have established a new meta for themselves, and while some initial launch units may have been slightly nerfed in the most recent update, others have been massively buffed. The mighty Skullcracker is one such unit, and it is now the age of the Iron Demon. It is not uncommon to see 3 or 4 of those bad boys in competitive multiplayer across all the different variants all in one build. They are likely the best unit in the Chaos Dwarf roster right now, owing to their gigantic increase in melee attack and ability to bully single entities that they maybe aren't really designed to fight against, but they're hardly the only unit that receives some love. Fireborn, Granite Guard, and Deathstreaker Rockets also got some much needed boosts, so in this battle, we're going to take them all for a spin and see what they can do on a custom land battles with capture points map, with Mother Meowist waiting in reserve. In the center of the map is the Green Comet, an unpleasant bit of warp stone that the Chaos Dwarfs clearly covet deeply, to march all this way across the Mountains of Morn and into the heart of the Cathay and Empire to grab it. It's a really cool battlefield, reminiscent of some of the custom design ones from Shogun 2, and it is here we're going to try out some of these new changes. Sorcerer Prophet is wielding the Lore of Metal, Searing Doom, and Plague of Rust astride his Bale Taurus, but below him is the star of the show, the Skullcracker. Now, I've used this in quite a few battles, most of which you will not see, but it has been a beast across most of them in this update. It almost doubled its melee attack from 36 to 55, with more charge bonus, more mass, and more ability to push through just about anything and everything in its way. The terrain on this map is going to be super useful, not just for the Skullcracker, but also for that rocket battery. A lot of cover to utilize here. Fireborn are a lot better now. Their HP threshold is 25% instead of 50, which combined with better morale and armor makes them perform in a way that better reflects their exorbitant cost, and I have had some great performances from these guys as well. But the big tactic this battle, besides running roughshod with the Skullcracker, is to use these rocky outcroppings that line the main crater as cover for the Deathstreaker to fire over the top of. It's an artillery piece that does not require direct line of sight and can fire straight upwards, so cannons literally cannot shoot back if it's taking cover behind those rocks, while it picks off high-value targets from range. Pretty nasty, pretty fun. It'll be joined by 2 Wolf Rider Archers, a unit of Bull Centaur Renders, who were nerfed a bit but are still great for defending your back line, and as Warp Lightning rains down in the center, we will shift our focus to the forces of Cathay, a host of Jade Warriors arrayed in one big-ass box, supported by a Fire Rain Rocket and a battery of Grand Bombards, 2 Iron Hail Gunners, and a lot of explosions being sent the way of the Skirmish Cav. But in the center, Miao Ying, the Storm Dragon, Talons of Night, Regrowth, and Wrath of the Storm. She can bully that Sorcerer Prophet on a Bale Taurus, no problem at all, if she can catch him. Now, as this battle gets underway, it's going to be an artillery duel first and foremost. There's no reason for the Chaos Dwarfs or Cathay to expose their most important troops at this point. They have a lot of cover from the trees lining that arena in the center. They have a lot of cover from the rocky outcroppings around the outside of it. So, the Demo Rocket coming in with that Death Streak from above, going right after the Fire Rain Rocket, recognizing that as a big threat to the expensive infantry on the other side of the field, like that Granite Guard. Want to make sure those Fire Rain Rockets are dealt with early. They're also more likely to be able to fire over the top of these cliffs, so that is why they are being prioritized. Now, slight little micro mistake here. Deathstreaker's not fully occluded from those grand cannons, so it'll have to dodge back into cover quickly. First 2 shots from the Deathstreaker have actually not been super impressive. Neither of the artillery pieces that it landed on were destroyed, and it doesn't have a massive amount of ammo, while its shots take a long time to land. So giving that Fire Rain Rocket more time to escape if it feels like it's in danger, well, that could be a bit of a missed opportunity if it's not able to destroy anything. But the Wolf Riders are on the flank. They're putting some pressure on the artillery crews as well, and the third shot will be the charm. 2 rockets taken offline simultaneously. One from the Wolf Riders up on top of the hill to the right of the Cathayan box, and one from that really nasty shot coming in from the Deathstreaker rocket. And it is so cool to watch this baby in action. I didn't really use it a whole lot in early access because it wasn't very good in early access, but it definitely feels a lot better to use now, and visually it's stunning, always has been, especially when using that spread shot versus infantry. Now, this Cathayan army does not have much in the way of skirmish power or range, no crossbows or archers, so the J-Lancers have to answer the call and zone out those Wolf Skirmishers. But in their haste, they're going to overextend here as the Bull Centaurs lay in wait and unleash their ambush. Thing with Renders is they're very slow. so they can't punish positioning in the same way some other Monstrous Cav units can in this game, and they're not very good in pursuit. So these Jade Lancers, even though they did overextend, are going to be fine. They're going to lose about half their HP, but it's not a particularly expensive unit. Not really a big deal to lose half the HP on a few models on a unit like that one. So they will retreat back to the safety of Miao Ying and her battle lines. Deathstreaker's now going after the Grand Bombard, trying to get rid of the cannon crews on that side. And the Shotgunners have moved to the top of the hill, and both Centaur Menders are going to go into them in pursuit. Now, this is also an overextension, and I was thinking, look, I'm going to quickly charge these Iron Hail Gunners, force them back, and then retreat. Felt like, hey, this will be a good test to see how well they do under pressure now with the changes. What I didn't notice was that half the unit actually got caught up in the Jade Lancers, so the impetus of their charge was weak anyway, and their low base melee attack is really going to hurt them here. With Miao Ying on top of them, I should have immediately pulled back, but at this point, it's probably already too late. They're so slow to disengage, and in my haste for glory, my beautiful Temple Guardians shall be brought low and quickly at bat. I'm not gonna lie, I was surprised at how fast they crumbled here, because yeah, the release version of this unit would have been way harder to kill, would have survived for a lot longer, probably mostly due to the wonky hitboxes and better stats they had on launch. So, good test, good thing to know. Don't get that aggressive with them. They are more of a backline sweeper. That should have always been their role from the beginning, I think. Getting that aggressive with a slow cabinet like that can be punished, and it was punished there. Well played to Cathay. Palpatine is ready to unleash the power. More power coming in with the Skullcracker. Acceleration, mass, and speed, charging directly through those battle lines with the help of the Granite Guard. That Jade unit crumbled immediately, and here come the Cathay Fireborn, which, I mean, naturally are one of the coolest units in the entire Chaos Dwarf roster, and frankly, probably one of the cooler units in the game. They are amazing for blending armored infantry. This is their role, and in this situation, they aren't even going to need slaves out front to support them. They will just immediately carve through this phalanx like a 1,000-degree knife through Kerrygold butter. Hashtag not sponsored, but hit me up, Kerrygold. We can work something out. And that will leave a huge hole in the center of the Cathayan battle line, just ripped apart. Sorcerer Prophet with his bull on parade, dropping searing dooms and causing terror, while the Skullcracker causes a mass rout on the Cathayan left. So on the right flank, in the center, on the left flank, Jade Warriors appear to be overmatched literally everywhere, but that does come with its own set of dangers for the Dawi Czar. Talons of Night on the left side of your screen, taking out a host of skirmish cavalry. Both will rout off, but should return, letting loose with one final volley before they retreat. Death Rocket going after the Grand Cannons, which are moving up way too far. Probably line of sight issue they will get under control soon. But those Fireborn killed those Jade Warriors so quickly that they are now almost immediately into an overextended position. And that is one of those things you really have to worry about when you're using these kind of squishy but glass cannon type units. Wild Riders kind of fit in the same category, although they're not in a great state right now. But there are some units that move so fast and kill so quickly that if you lose sight of them for but an instant, they are already in a deadly position for them. And that's what's going to happen here. I just mismicroed them for a split second. I was looking at something else, and I came back, and they were already in the Cathayan back line, and I already realized I can't pull away at this point. They're too low. They're just going to crumble out anyway. Might as well send them into the shotgunners, get whatever value I can. So that is a blunder, but it is one that is very easy to have occur with a unit like that. You have to always be on the ball with the Fireborn, or they're going to die. But that is 100% my fault. In the battle before this, I had an amazing game with the Fireborn. They got 3,000 damage value and killed like 250, 300 guys. So they are definitely very capable in their role. You just have to micromanage them to a much greater extent than some other units. This one was a little bit annoying. I issued that Granite Guard order a full 2.5 seconds before the Vortex came down, and they still get absolutely mulched by it, lose half their HP. Thankfully, not too much their killing power is gone, only lost 6 models, but man, that Talons of Night Vortex is crazy. Super good at killing elite infantry or blobs of really any kind of dismounted troops. So I'm gonna have my Sorcerer Prophet come in and duel Miao Ying. Now, he will not win that fight, but I don't need him to win it. He should be able to tank that for at least a little bit, provide some more space and time for my Granite Guard to escape. They are routing for now, but they will recover close to that tree line, turn around, and hopefully get some good volleys in. Miao Ying is actually taking some volleys from the Granite Guard. A little bit lower than I would expect at this stage in the battle. Big problem I have to worry about now are those shotgunners, and that is why continuously dropping the Searing Dooms on top of them, and why the Death Shrieker Rocket will switch to bonus versus infantry mode and start shooting into both those Iron Hail Gunners. They need to be killed off because they are a big threat to not only my Sorcerer Prophet on the Baal Taurus, but also to my Granite Guard, to my Skullcracker, to really everything on my side of the field. They can kill it. Blazing Beards of Bazarak are about to feel their wrath. They would do really well in melee against these Jade Warrior Halberds. Problem is their entire flank is being torn asunder by volleys of very powerful armor-piercing ammunition. And at this point, the arena is a death zone. The Granite Guard are not going to be able to escape. Miao Ying is on top of them alongside a horde of peasants. The gunners are shut down. Most of the infantry are isolated and have no ability to retreat. There's nowhere for them to go. So they're just going to die. They're going to fight out for as long as they can. They're going to buy time while the Skullcracker and the mobile elements retreat back to the Death Shrieker behind that cliff, and we reevaluate everything. Cathay has the center. More importantly, they have the capture point, and they're up to 200 points. So if something isn't done about that arena and a second push isn't made by the Dawizar, they'll just win on cap points by itself. But we're scheming up some plans to potentially bring this one back. So the Skullcracker, the Wolf Riders, everything's going to head over to where the Death Shrieker is currently. You're going to set up behind this cliff and hang out for a little bit while the Sorcerer Prophet continues the deluge of Searing Dooms, trying to get rid of those Iron Hail Gunners who are now wavering. There are some Wolf Riders that have come back. They're going to go around the rocky outcroppings and head towards the artillery. Looks like the Blazing Beards of Bazarak will be able to finish off the Jade Warrior Halberds, but with a rear charge from those Jade Lancers and maybe a few more volleys from those Iron Hail Gunners, not going to be around for too much longer. Fire Rain Rocket is finally silenced. That little gray poof was the explosion of the last arty piece. And Miao Ying on top of the Death Shrieker. Now, the cool thing about going Lore of Metal and not investing in Final Transmutation, which I don't think would have been very useful for me this game, because there haven't been massive blobs with Miao Ying in the center. Cool thing about it is that we can now spam Searing Dooms and Plague of Rust. And Overcast Plague of Rust is amazing in duels. Minus 60 armor will allow that Baal Taurus, even though it already has a decent chunk of AP, allow that base damage to come into play and trade a lot more effectively in those fights. It'll also help out with the Skullcracker when that comes in too, if Miao Ying decides to land. So this is where, even though we haven't really called the Skullcracker's name a whole lot in this battle, it can really start making a tremendous impact for the Chaos Dwarf Rebels. Because there's so much infantry on the field, only a little bit of cav, and Jade Lancers cannot deal with a Skullcracker in melee. Not a armored single entity that has 55 melee attack base. So switching over to the bonus versus infantry volley, that salvo was super underwhelming with the Jade Warriors completely. And those are infantry that need to be taken off the field because they're one of the only units on the field that can actually pose some kind of threat to the Skullcracker because they have armor-piercing halberds. But right now, I mean, this Skullcracker, we're going to see that kill count just skyrocket. As long as it stays away from the Iron Hail shotgunners, it can pretty much solo the rest of this Cathay army besides Miao Ying herself, and that's a situation. Let's watch this volley first. Oh, that's going to be a good one. 2,500 damage. Super nice volley right into the center of the formation. Gutted it. Killed a bunch of models as well. But yeah, that duel with Miao Ying, which is inevitable. At some point, both the Sorcerer Prophet and the Skullcracker will have to fight the dragon, who has now shifted back into human form and has cast a regrowth on herself. So it's unfortunate. That's going to be hard to deal with when she's healing as well. But the Skullcracker is really efficient at dueling single entities right now, and I don't think it's entirely intended. Turin has reported his Skullcrackers beating Vargulfs in melee, which I think the simple way to deal with tanks like that is they should be okay in a single entity duel, but maybe not incredible. I think 55 melee attack base for a Skullcracker might be high. What you could do is give them a massive bonus versus infantry that gives them 55, 60 melee attack when fighting foot troops, but then lower the base melee attack to a more reasonable value. one that's probably still higher than what it was at launch, because I think it only had like, what, 36 melee attack base when the Chaos Dwarfs DLC first came out, and it was an underwhelming unit at that point. But alongside all of its other buffs as well, if it maybe has 40, 44 melee attack, something like that, that's probably more reasonable, and it won't be able to beat specialist duelist single entities that are designed for that, which it can right now. And then you can just kind of turn it towards its more design role with a massive bonus versus infantry, where it just absolutely shreds foot troops, which I think is its original intended design. So right now, the Deathstreaker has been swarmed by Cathayan peasants with spears. The Skullcracker is down to about 2/3 health. The Sorcerer Prophet is low after that duel with Miao Ying, but the Shotgunners have moved up on top of the hill, and that will allow a more power downhill charge with all that steam directly through 3 full regiments and into the back line. And these Iron Hail Gunners are in severe danger now. Skullcracker is up to 200 kills, and that is rising quickly. This is its design role. This is where it should be an incredible unit, and it is doing amazing work. Just everything getting close to it, terror routing. There's not a whole lot to stop its rampage alongside the Bale Taurus. Miao Ying is still in foot form. She is still by far the biggest threat to the Chaos Dwarfs, who are quickly running out of bodies. I mean, they have maybe a Wolf Rider in the back line that went after the cannons, and I think they suicided to silence those Grand Bombards for good. Is that a regrowth being sent the way of the Shotgunners? What is that? That is a regrowth. Interesting play. We'll see if that keeps them on the field or not. Maybe that'll be a game-changing play, because right now nothing has shown it can stop the Skullcracker. And a big-time breath attack as 3 units overlap on top of each other, and Miao Ying goes back into dragon form. And this is where the Skullcracker could be in some danger if it's caught in amongst the halberds and Miao Ying comes in to reinforce. That's a situation where the Skullcracker could not deal with her in a duel. But that is why the Bale Taurus is here. It can shoot into her while casting Plague of Rust on her and give that Skullcracker more space to do its dirty work. And so far, this thing has been an absolute abomination. And it can easily push through limitless hordes of Cathayan peasants. They can't stop it. And as a battle line forms here on the capture point, Chaos Dwarfs obviously have a big issue that they need to find a way to cap that, or at least decap, so that the points stop going in the way of Cathay, because in only maybe 3 or 4 more minutes, they'd be able to win on capture points alone. But these battle lines are the perfect opportunity for the Skullcracker to just buzzsaw its way down the length, and that is the easiest way for it to rack up obscene kills. Look at that, man. It was at 220 a few seconds ago. It's now at 295. It just went over 300. That threshold is continuing to skyrocket, and nothing can slow it down except Miao Ying, who is indisposed at the moment. She's going after the Bale Taurus and the Sorcerer Prophet, who are fleeing towards the edges of the map. And this is actually something that I'd like to... Oh, man, that's so cool. That's so freaking cool. It's one of those things that I'd like to see for the Steam Tank as well. Now, the Steam Tank, I'm not sure should be quite as good as the Skullcracker at blending infantry, because, of course, it doesn't have weapons up front that are designed to rip things apart. It doesn't have buzzsaws and drills and pistons and all of that. But I think it's the same kind of role the Steam Tank should transition into that it currently doesn't really fill right now. Steam Tank, in its current form, I think is an underwhelming unit. It isn't used a whole lot in multiplayer. Don't even really see it all that often in campaign. Of course, you can make Doomstacks work with it, but it's not great versus infantry in its current form. I'd like to see this kind of thing, if not quite as powerful, for the Steam Tank in melee. I think the Steam Tank deserves some buffs. It's an iconic unit for the Empire. I'd like to see it used more often. Balance bar is shifting pretty heavily in favor of Cathay. The Bale Taurus is going to take the duel with Miao Ying, realizing that they don't quite have enough steam to carry them to victory. Skullcracker will end this game with about 400 kills. Amazing performance from it, 2,000 plus damage value, but this will be the end, and the Sorcerer Prophet will plummet from the skies. So, couple things here. The biggest losses in the game, without question, were the Kadai Fireborn and the Bull Centaur Renders. In the game before this, they actually performed super, super well. In this one, I wanted to push them a little bit further, at least in the case of the Bull Centaurs. I overextended with them. With the Kadai Fireborn, I just missed micro them for a split second, and they got in range of 2 shotgun units and just died. I think I used terrain really well in that battle, but losing 1,600, 1,500, yeah, like 3,000 value worth of units for not a whole lot, even though I don't think they were horrendous plays in and of themselves together. It was a little bit much to overcome. If I use the Fireborn better that game, I think there's a good shot I win it because there was not a whole lot left for the Cathayan army at the end. What you guys did not see was a very similar build in the game before this, absolutely stomping the Warriors of Chaos. The battle was so one-sided, I didn't really want to cast it. So that's what I mean when I say that a single replay never really tells the whole story. My Cathay Fireborn had 3,000 damage value in that game. Here, they were very underwhelming, mostly just because they were out of position and got shot up by shotguns. But yeah, I mean, it was a good game to Gojira. I think it was a really interesting map as well. Love using that terrain and seeing the rockets firing over the top and kind of playing that artillery duel against the Cathayan stuff. But overall, had a great time. Well played to Gojira. See you all in the next one. Peace out.